Well, Jean, there's certainly no doubt about the fact that you're a Londoner, having been born in Stoke Newington. But where are you born, upstairs or downstairs? That's the point.
Oh, very much downstairs in every sense of the word, because I was born in a basement, just in rooms. I don't think we even had a bathroom or a kitchen to ourselves.
And was your mum in service downstairs?
Yes, but my mother's a real original Cockney. And she was in service, I think, probably from the age of 12 or 13. Not for long, because she was quite bright. She became a manageress of a pub. She gets very cross when I say she was a barmaid, but that's really what she was. She was a grand barmaid.
And was it perhaps some of her stories of being in service that gave you the idea of upstairs, downstairs?
I think a little bit. It was a little bit of resenting upstairs on behalf of my parents, because obviously not just that I loved them, but I think my father's very interesting and bright, and Mummy was, and I didn't think they got a fair crack of the whip. And you never see or even read in books about servants, so I really wanted to tell stories about them and their past, or before they were born as well.
But looking back on your childhood, it coincided very much with war years. Now, do you actually remember the day that war broke out in London?
Yes, I do. It was rather touching. I really was quite small. And the radio was on in the flat that we lived in, very loud. And I was standing outside, and I remember this very important noise coming out. And when it was over, my mother yelped, ran outside, and gathered me up in her arms and ran inside, because she thought that that very second Hitler would drop a bomb right on me. Of course he didn't.
But the bombs did come. So what about the devastation? I mean, do you have vivid memories of that?
Yes. Strange memories. The most vivid one is seeing halves of houses or halves of blocks of flats, because they don't crumble. Some are totally flattened, but the odd thing is to see half a house, say, with a picture askew on the wall, a piano open. And then, of course, your imagination runs ahead and you wonder where the people are. You really want to reach out and put people back inside them. It's rather like a film set.
It's a bit like a doll's house almost, the way you see it all open.
Completely sliced off. Very, very odd.
Well, in terms of going to the air raid shelters, I mean, did you go down the tubes as such?
Well, not often. I don't think anybody in our family liked it. We didn't like crowds, and we all got claustrophobia. I mean, I just remember never walking when I went down to the tube because there were so many people. I was carried down. Oh, I think Mummy and Daddy didn't like it, but certainly my sister and I screamed and screamed. And we just, we either didn't have any protection, or for a long time we lived near Kilburn, and we lived in a ground floor flat of a mansion block, and that was supposed to be the safest. So we all slept in the hall, and other people from the building used to come down and sleep in our hall. And I thought that was terrific.
Why, were they interesting people?
Well, it was a change from Mum and Dad, and eventually, of course, you got used to waking up in the middle of the night. But there were Americans also, and they used to give me gum, which I had to hide because my father didn't like us to have things like that.
Well, what do you remember actually about the Americans? Because they always seemed to be, bringing the goodies, didn't they?
Well, I was a little older when Americans were around, and they used to pat you on the head and give you gum and candy, as they called it. They were very nice.
And looked healthy?
No, not at all. I thought they were fat. I thought all Americans were fat until I went to America. They all had big behinds, I remember.
On the other hand, so many people do remember rationing, not only during the war, but for many years afterwards. So what was rationing like in London?
Oh, it was terrible. I mean, not terrible for me because I didn't question it. I was a child, but it must have been awful for parents, for my mother to cook. The only good thing was that the national loaf was brown and much healthier than most bread that people ate. But my father was a very keen health food man, and for a while we were vegetarian. So during the war, we had 2 meat ration books and 3 vegetarian ones. That was marvellous because in exchange for 1 measly lamb chop a week, you got lots more cheese. We were the only people who had nuts and a strange thing called nutter, a very kind of sticky, nutty butter.
But mind you, that was quite futuristic, wasn't it, of your father to be a vegetarian in those
Very
days?
unusual, especially for a working class man, to have anything about food. I mean, but my sister and I resented it terribly. And he always had new crushes, like there were no such things as mixers and squashers and squeezers. And he infuriated my mother by grating carrots and squeezing them in linen handkerchiefs. And he had a terrible patch when he sent us to school every day chewing a clove of garlic, and we lost all our friends. And a favourite breakfast of his was hot cider vinegar and water. And you think, "Wah!" And all the children at school used to go home and have white bread and gravy, because, you know, they were all poor. And we had salads, and we thought, how vile and how cruel they were to us.
On the other hand, he probably thought you were much healthier during the
Well,
war
and now
than other people.
now
did.
I'm grateful, but I used to swear and say the minute I'm grown up, I'm going to have fish and chips every day.
And are you still a vegetarian?
No, I'm not, but and I love fish and chips. But no, my instincts are what he would like. I eat very carefully and very well.
And I should say this is his birthday today, too.
Yes, it's my father's 80th birthday
Well,
today.
lots of love to him anyway. That's a marvellous age.
Thank you.
Obviously, the vegetables long ago didn't do him any harm anyway.
Oh, no.
Now, when you think of those long evenings during the war years, I mean, what did you as a family do together?
Well, we didn't spend much time together because Daddy worked at night. He worked at Odham's Press in Longacre. And then quite often Mummy would work in the bar at night. And then I've got a sister who's older than me, and then a half-sister who was like my mother's half-sister, but who was so young that my mother adopted her. And I think they looked after me. But then my sister and I went to theatre school, ballet school, when we were very young, and we would be dancing after school. So we didn't really have cosy evenings, only at the weekend. And they weren't very cosy. I think my family were rather a shouty-outy family. They rowed quite a lot.
But your father, wasn't he a great radio buff during the war
Yes,
years
but that
too?
caused a lot of the trouble because my father built radios this size. So they filled the living room, and huge boards with the speakers in that were like sculptures. And my mother thought that it ruined everything.
Yeah.
But it was a wonderful part of life, radio, in those days. Really wonderful.
And you seem to be, in some ways, very fond of those war years. You seem to look back on them almost affectionately.
Well, just because, well, I suppose I liked being young. I preferred before the war. My memories are much better before the war. We lived in much nicer places. We lived in Islington and Holborn and Highbury Hill, and there were wonderful parks. And my strongest memories are, when you're very poor, parks are very important. Parks and street markets were the biggest thing in my life. And I can remember waddling. I always seemed to waddle. I was always wrapped up in leggings and things. Maybe I was a fat little girl. I can remember waddling through Highbury Fields and Finsbury Park. And all my memories are of winter. I was always splashing in puddles, and there were wet leaves. And then the markets, like Upper Street Market, I remember. All the greengrocers, the vegetable men, were very keen on Mummy. She was very, very pretty. And they would flirt with her, and to keep in with her, they'd give us apples and grapes and things.
Well, Jean Marsh, it's lovely to see you back in England. And just very briefly, when you're living in New York a lot of the time, what do you miss about London in particular?
Food, I miss sausages and bacon, and I long to get back. My favourite part of London's Camden Town, and I plan where I'll live in Camden Town.